There is no debate that weaponized drones have forever changed the tactical level conduct of war. Even nations without access to large drones are showing just how dangerous cheap commercial quadcopters are on the battlefield. Just look at this video of a weaponized civilian drone Hamas used to take out an Israeli remote control machine gun during their October attack, or their use against communication towers. Here's another video of a commercial drone being prepped for use in the ongoing Sudan civil war. Now you have the power of surveillance and close support, organic at the squad level, for a few $1,000s instead of a few million. But nowhere is the combat use of drones, small and large, more prevalent than in the ongoing war between Ukraine and Russia. Small quadcopters and fixed drones, with increasingly heavy payloads, are able to hit soft targets. There's even a full Reddit page dedicated to Ukrainian drone combat footage. What technological advances in the past few decades allowed for this type of warfare? What are some of the most successful tactics we've observed on the battlefield? In order to understand how drone warfare really works, I got this Skywalker long-range, ready-to-fly drone from UAV Systems. It cost a couple $1,000. So the only way I was able to get my hands on this was thanks to our partner, GetEnterToWin.com. They're a veteran-owned small business, and all you have to do for a chance to win this drone is click the link in the description or head over to go.getentertowin.com/taskandpurpose, buy one of our custom limited edition collectibles, and you'll be automatically entered to win this badass fixed-wing drone with 12 miles max range and up to 59 minutes of flight time. It's packed with tech found in commercial and military drones. This UAV comes with encrypted telemetry radios, live HD video action camera, and it's powered by the open source HereLink flight controller. And besides getting the awesome custom collectible for yourself and the chance to win, you'll also be continuing to help support the channel and our ability to keep creating awesome free content for you guys. So click the link in the description, head over to go.getentertowin.com/taskandpurpose, grab a limited edition collectible, and get automatically entered to win. You must be a US resident in order to win, and the deadline to enter is October 29th by 11:59 p.m. Thank you for your support. Good luck. First things first, what is a drone? Google will tell you it's a continuously low humming sound. While that's technically correct, most people refer to drones as uncrewed aerial vehicles, and they've existed pretty much since people invented balloons. As far back as 1849, the Austrian warship Volcano launched balloons off the coast of Venice in an effort to firebomb the city. This is actually a pretty underrated event, as it marks the first use of drones, air warfare, and an aircraft carrier in European history. The Volcano launched roughly 200 paper balloons with timed fuses and 24 to 30 pound bombs with the intent of creating fires and chaos in the streets of Venice. However, wind caused the balloons to drift off course, and the attack ultimately failed. Seems like a foreshadowing of the problem of weather with drones. Almost 70 years later, during World War I, both the United States and Great Britain were experimenting with the latest drone aviation technology. This is the Aerial Target, a remote piloted aircraft for anti-aircraft personnel to practice shooting down. Here's the Kettlebug, an American-made remote piloted aircraft designed to kamikaze into its target. Developed in 1918, the Kettlebug acted as an early cruise missile with a range of 75 miles and a top speed of 50 miles per hour. But difficulties in testing kept this drone from ever deploying into actual combat. Post-World War I drone development in the United States and Great Britain continued to develop, mostly for the purposes of creating flying targets that pilots and anti-aircraft gunners could safely shoot out of the sky. In the East, Imperial Japan built roughly 10,000 balloon bombs during World War II and sent them on the westerlies to drift towards the west coast of the United States. Operation Fugo was clearly the fever dream of some Imperial Japanese staff officer. While it looked good on paper, the operation failed to deliver in practice. Bombs were strapped to a fixed volume balloon with internal mechanics that autonomously adjusted the gas mixture and ballast system to maintain a steady altitude. A secondary altimeter decided when to release the balloon's thermite incendiary and anti-personnel bombs when the device was over the United States. Although these balloon bombs were far more advanced than those launched against Venice in 1849, they were still not good enough to have any significant impact. Almost 10,000 balloons launched from Japan towards the United States between November 1944 and April 1945. For all this effort, only one balloon resulted in wartime casualties. And in another foreshadowing of drone warfare, that balloon only killed innocent people who were on a picnic in Oregon. After World War II, drones continued to develop alongside aviation technology. In Vietnam, for instance, the Ryan Model 147 both deployed and was collected mid-air. No runway necessary. These small and fast drones regularly evaded North Vietnamese anti-air and were able to fly in places conventional aircraft could not. The Ryan Model 147 were mostly used as scouting and reconnaissance for bombing missions or to drop propaganda leaflets. The 2001 US invasion of Afghanistan marked the first modern drone strike in history. Predator drones, originally built solely for surveillance and reconnaissance missions in 1994, were on the hunt for key Taliban leaders prior to the ground invasion of Afghanistan. In Langley, Virginia, some CIA officers had the very American idea of putting some guns on board to see what it could do. In Kandahar, Afghanistan, CIA Predator number 3034 launched the first ever kinetic drone strike on the Taliban leader Mullah Omar. Unfortunately, the pilots missed their target and struck Omar's bodyguards instead. Rally on me for a second, Spare Parts Army, because I have a story to tell you. Back in my day, close air support required multi-million-dollar aircraft and a forward air controller, a pilot, and was limited to things like time on target and time on station parameters. When you added up the cost of jet fuel, ordnance, maintenance, and training, each close air support strike that you called in cost the taxpayer an equivalent of a brand new school. But the 2010s most modern militaries were working on their own drone programs. Turkey began their armed UAV program with the Bayraktar in 2004. Iran began using drones for reconnaissance during their 8-year war with Iraq in the 1980s, but officially announced their weaponization in collaboration with Russia in 2016. According to the Center for the Study of Drone at Bard College, China's first drone was a US Air Force AQM-34 freebie that China reverse engineered in the 1960s. By 2009, China revealed their Chengdu JG-1, or Wing Long 1, with underwing hardpoints for 200-kilogram bombs, or BRM-1 and AKD-10 missiles. Under President Obama, the use of drones to kill terrorist operatives in Syria and Yemen without the large-scale deployment of combat troops that were unpopular after the Iraq and Afghanistan war, their tactical employment was brought to a new level. Over Obama's 2 terms as president, he authorized 540 publicly recognized strikes that killed approximately 3,797 people, over 10 times more than his predecessor Bush. Nations without access to US military drones, but still craving that sexy Predator look, turned to China. Foreign sales of the Wing Long after the Obama presidency took off. Starting in 2017, Chinese drones saw frequent combat missions in Egypt, Yemen, Ethiopia, and Libya. Meanwhile, the development of commercial off-the-shelf or COTS drones really began to take off in 2013. This is when the Chinese company DJI began manufacturing one of the first ready-to-fly drones, the DJI Phantom. Unlike its US military knockoff predecessors, DJI appeared to be a legitimately innovative Chinese company. Over the next several years, the company continued to make drones faster, smaller, and more stable. By 2017, DJI drones controlled 74% of the entire market. 2013 was really the first year that everyday people were able to tinker with drones from their local Walmart or Best Buy. Not long after this, things started to get really silly. In 2015, a Japanese eco-terrorist upset about Japan's nuclear program purchased and flew a DJI Phantom II onto the roof of the Prime Minister's house that he had purposefully contaminated with radiation. Soon after, Japan passed new restrictions on drone flying, and Tokyo police began hunting down illegal drones with their own drone-catching quadcopters. Not long afterwards, drone technology gained traction in terrorist organizations like Hezbollah and the Islamic State. Take a look at this ISIS propaganda footage from 2017 of drones used to drop grenades in Mosul. In the past decade, the frequency and availability of weaponized commercial drones has skyrocketed. So in 2020, the ability for both military and civilian drones to influence the outcome of localized conflicts in Libya and Nagorno-Karabakh caught the attention of military powers around the world. Now, of course, we could be exaggerating to say that those conflicts wouldn't have gone the way that they would have without drones, but they certainly had an influence. In Libya, the Turkish drone Kargu made international headlines as the closest we've come to living in the movie The Terminator. The cargo is both a fully autonomous recon drone and a remote piloted strike drone. Visit their website today and it clearly states that, quote, precision strike mission is fully performed by the operator in line with man-in-the-loop principle. This front page emphasis on having man in the loop is because in 2020, conflict observers from the United Nations reported that a fully autonomous cargo swarm attacked warlord militia on behalf of the Turkish-backed government of national accord. This alleged attack created a lot of controversy over the ethics of a fully autonomous strike. Man in the loop, if you're not familiar with the term, it's often used in all different types of military weapons and equipment, and it means that they're somewhere along the line in the kill chain, before the button is pushed, before the missile is sent, there is a human being that is confirming that strike. So the 2020 Nagorno-Karabakh conflict sealed the fate of the importance of drones in modern conflict. Images of Azerbaijan's Israeli and Turkish-bought drones destroying tanks and acting as forward observers for artillery sold the importance of drones in the way that pictures can tell 1,000 words. Data analysis published in Military Strategy magazine concluded that it is very clear that without the drones, the Azeris would not have achieved the success they did. While neither side had a significant air force to establish air dominance, Azerbaijan's drones tipped the balance of the conflict with its comparative air supremacy at a fraction of the price. So countries that can't necessarily afford an air force can afford drone air forces. To emphasize this point, Colonel Scott Shaw, former head of the Army's Asymmetric Warfare Group, said in a paper published in Foreign Policy magazine, quote, "You don't have to be the United States or Russia anymore. The price point to entry into combined arms warfare is lower than initially thought." On February 24, 2022, when Russia marched into Ukraine for the second time, Ukrainian forces took these lessons to heart. Shortly after the invasion, a special volunteer unit began transforming commercial drones and custom-built drones for combat against Russian invaders. When a 40-mile convoy marched from Belarus towards the capital, Kyiv, about 30 Ukrainians on ATVs carrying weaponized commercial drones repeatedly struck the convoy. The relatively short distance and low altitude meant the Russian aircraft and air defense did not have time to protect ground troops from these low-flying UAV threats. Russian jamming devices also blocked their own communications, so these Ukrainian units simply waited until Russians turned the jamming off to launch strikes. Alongside these Ukrainian commercial drones, the Turkish Bayraktar TB2 drone was shish kebabbing Russian armor. As the war continued, a combination of improved Russian air defense and diminishing replacements slowly removed the Bayraktar from the center stage of the Ukraine-Russian drone war. In its place, loitering munitions began filling in the gaps. Companies competing for US defense contracts supplied Ukraine with new loitering munitions to test products in active combat. For those that don't already know, loitering munitions are the next stage for fire-and-forget ordnance. These are essentially drones that'll launch and circle the battlefield while searching for a target. Once the user designates one, they move in for a kamikaze strike. The Switchblade 300 and 600 are two US-made loitering munitions active in Ukraine. Depending on the variant, these drones weigh anywhere between 4 and 65 pounds. They launch from a mortar-like tube and circle the battlefield for 20 to 40 minutes, and then accelerate to 100 miles per hour before striking a target. Details on their performance in Ukraine are hard to come by, but on the 16th of October 2023, the US Army batch-ordered itself 100 Switchblades for testing and fielding. In the wake of low-performing cruise missiles, Russia also turned to loitering and kamikaze drones in Ukraine. Take a look at this video. This is an Iranian-made Shahed 136 striking the Ukrainian capital Kyiv. Without a strong domestic industrial base, Iran began fielding Russia the Shahed 136, an attack drone capable of traveling more than 1,000 miles according to an investigative report done by the Wall Street Journal. Deals with Russia seek to create domestic Iranian drone plants capable of producing 6,000 Shahed 136 drones by 2025. From what we understand about drones thus far, they're very good at compensating for a lack of traditional theater dominance. They appear most effective when neither side has complete control over the skies. Taking this logic into other theaters, Ukraine also built a fleet of unmanned surface vessels in the Black Sea to strike at the Russian Navy. As a result, most of the Russian Navy is sequestered on the far edge of Crimea, away from their home port of Sevastopol. And you can see the effects of this by looking at these Russian ships hiding far away in the east to try to avoid these drones. After the October attack by Hamas, the world is anticipating an IDF land invasion of Gaza Strip. What role will drones play in fighting on both sides? We've already seen Hamas use commercial weaponized drones to attack Israel during their initial assault. From this footage aired on Indian Today, Hamas appears to have a modest fleet of rail-launched fixed-wing drones at their disposal. This is the Elbit Systems Lanius drone. The Lanius is designed to accompany a squad of infantry and fill a multi-role, part recon and part loitering munition. The device can launch from a larger mothership or individually, navigate inside buildings even, and rest in an ambush mode like a claymore. This smaller squad-issued drone is clearly a product of innovation from the war between Ukraine and Russia, yet modified to fit the unique, dense urban environment of the Gaza Strip, something we haven't really seen much of yet. 1 month before the Hamas attack, on September 13th, Israel released public information on a secretive drone project called Spark. This medium-sized, highly sophisticated drone helps create a better picture of the operating area while also improving communication. According to an Israeli Air Force spokesperson, the Spark is, quote, worth 10 different UAVs in its intelligence capabilities. Innovation in technology and automation in drones is changing the way that soldiers fight in wars. Chris Cappy, find me at Cappy Army on Instagram. That's CAPPY Army on Instagram. And as always, thank you for watching Spare Parts Army.